Okay, everybody, welcome back to the main stage, to our I say last session, but last but not least, I can't wait for this one. It's all about virtual music, which I'm actually doing for my PhD. So the notes are ready. I'm going to do some writing. We've got Annabeth Robinson from Salford University. She's going to be moderating the session and introduce herself. And we've got Kay Dunnings from Shangri-La. I can't say that because I'm dyslexic. Shangri-La. Or from Lost Horizons. And then we've got Lewis from Free Party VR, and also does loads of other stuff as well. Like Lewis has been a huge part of the Immersive Labs community. So, Annabeth, I'll see you in about 50 minutes. I'm going to hand it over to you, but enjoy.
Okay, well, thank you. So yeah, I think this is going to be quite what's the word? Quite good topic, because we are using virtual worlds in a kind of context of responding to coronavirus, and I think music and theatre and entertainment has had a big hit on that. And I think what's been interesting is how VR technology has been adapted, or these kind of collaborative virtual worlds. And potentially, is this the future of the Metaverse as a new extension of this part of the sector and the entertainment sector? So just a bit of context to myself. Yes, I'm a lecturer in animation at University of Salford in Media City. But Mark kind of asked me on board because about a decade ago, my kind of peak moment was about 2008. I was kind of a Second Life artist. And even I had the opportunity to kind of rub shoulders in those kind of very early steps where people like Duran Duran were kind of exploring the possibility of can we use this as a virtual stadium, a virtual arena for promoting music and bringing people together in a kind of intimate setting, through to kind of more ambient settings of things like Brian Eno's 77 million paintings. So it's something that I've always had interest in and wanted to play with virtual worlds. And then about a decade on, it's hopefully matured, and we can kind of see we've moved on from doing a venue where we might only had about 20 people now to something like 4 million, was it, Kay? Something like that. So that's my kind of thing. So, well, first of all, can we? Well, starting with Kay, do you want to explain what Lost Horizons is and how you came to bring that into being?
Yeah, sure. So Lost Horizon it's been a crazy journey, almost a year now, when we got the news that Glastonbury 2020 was cancelled, and we'd already done so much work on the design and build, and we'd sort of gathered all this creative momentum with all of our collaborators. We work with musicians and artists across every sort of genre, really, but it's more of a community than anything else. A lot of people we see all the time, but others it's oh, here we go. It's just there, so we would okay, what can we do to sort of keep the gang together and try and get around this, because a lot of us come from sort of free party culture where nothing will stop the rave from happening. So we were introduced to Sansar via VR Jam, a mutual friend of Chris Toffey, who is another director. And our minds were blown, really, because we build Shangri-La in 3D anyway on SketchUp, just so we can kind of plan every single component that goes into the field. So we'd spent hours already wandering around the sitemap virtually. So this was just like another level, really, and what's so great about it, what I love about it, is the detail that you get with Sansar. There's certain drawbacks as well, but the fact that we could actually meet up with our mates and talk and hang out and dance just felt like such a dream. So we just had to go for it and just dive in. When from a live events background, it's such a different space. So we were, really wondering how we can push all these amazing advances in tech to create something that was meaningful in that space. So yeah, we did it in 3 months. We built this from scratch with the Sansar Studios team. We had 6 different areas 3 live music stages, one sort of media center showing like a film, 24 hours of film, and a landing zone space and an art gallery as well. So we wanted to combine all the things that we create at Glastonbury, at Shangri-La, in this world. Because, you know, we were also like, well, we don't know where this is going to go, let's just put everything in, let's get everyone involved in some way, however we can, whether it's them sending us a video or someone making a sculpture for us. And then all the visual art as well. We wanted to make it really feel like you were having that experience. And yeah, it's a lot of people sort of came mostly by streaming. We were really blown away. It was a free event as well. If only we charge £1, hey? We wouldn't be in this situation we're in now. You know, so since then we're trying to put on more shows and trying to find other ways to support artists during a time where, you know, 500,000 of us or more don't have any work. So yeah, that's kind of the basic background.
Yeah, well, actually, that thing about ticketing, it's a topic on mine coming back to as festivals and conferences have actually had to go online. But we all seem to have to offer them for free because that was expected. But this is now the new normal. It's got to have a revenue model if we're going to pay the artists and stuff like that. I think it'd be nice to come back on that and pick that apart actually, and see what people on the chat channel say about that as well. Lewis, can you kind of give us a sense of what Free Party is about and how that's kind of similar or different to Lost Horizon?
Yeah, so I'm part of a sort of multidisciplinary art collective called Deadstream, and what we do monthly live streams, and they're very audio and visual heavy. And then when COVID hit, we obviously didn't have any way of doing these live streams, and we wanted to try and create something that still embodied the spirit of that, the combination of the audio and visual. And at the time, I didn't really have a lot of work that was going on. So I just kind of put it to myself to build my own platform. I was aware of the various platforms that existed, but partly it was a challenge for me. But the other side of it was that I really wanted to have kind of complete control over what I was making, and the way that evolved. So I think I spent 2 weeks initially, from start to finish, just completely building the entire platform. It's quite a rushed thing at the start, and I didn't get very much sleep in that period. I was just completely driven by the fact that no one could have these music experiences anymore. So I wanted to try and create something where people could still share that experience. The main theme around Free Party, as the name suggests, it's based on free party culture. And I thought, I was aware of all the other existing platforms, and I wanted to bring something of my own background into the space. And I've been a part of the rave scene in Yorkshire for quite a long time. And so it kind of tries to embody the whole spirit of rave culture, people getting together. And one of the other things, the music is one of the main things that brings people there. But the secondary side to that is more about exploring the space and trying to, make something of your own out of these events.
Cool. Well, I think both of you touched on this idea of taking something that used to be a physical space and then translating it to a virtual one. And like Kay, you were kind of mentioning, you would have already kind of built the sets in Google SketchUp. So fingers crossed, you could have just like moved them across. Similarly, Lewis, you were kind of hinting that it actually was started from scratch building things. So what was that challenge of trying to keep the authentic feeling of a real venue and then translating it to virtual? And then as you were discovering that, what did the virtual offer more, if you know what I mean?
Do you want to start, Lewis? Or?
The first environment that I started with is just like a warehouse space, and I've got a sound system in there, and it's all designed to be familiar to people that have been to warehouse raves, and that's kind of the ambience that we're trying to create with that. I outside of of 3Party itself. I do a lot of 3D modeling, texturing. I do a lot of game development anyway, so that side of things for me wasn't particularly that challenging. It has become more challenging because I created the desktop version first, so that can kind of be, full quality as much as you want. The real challenge from the production side of things was creating the version for the Oculus Quest. Because it's mobile VR, there's a huge amount of optimization that needs to be done. There's a lot of limitations for the technical hardware, but I've kind of managed to get an almost one-to-one quality between the desktop experience and the Quest version. So I'm quite happy about that. In terms of how the environments worked, so the really interesting aspect for me is that there weren't many features when I first started. It was just the warehouse. We had the ability to stream video in and also the music. So it just kind of had the core functionality. But then as the users sort of explored the space, I saw how they were interacting with the environment and the kind of feedback I was getting from them. And I started to build new features that would encourage more of those types of interactions that they were actually trying to do. And I think that was one of the benefits for me of having full control over something that I've built. I can just throw in new features. And we've had a lot of... so I'll just explain. So in the actual space itself, it's got like the warehouse, but then on the side of it, there's a gallery. And every month we have a new gallery, which is filled with all artwork that people submit to us. And then we also, we've had a few artists like Jason Foster, who's been creating VR artwork. So he's modeled these objects in VR. And then we then incorporate those into the space. So then there's new things for people to explore every time they go to an event. And then we also have I developed a quest system. So our Deadstream art crew, once a month, they'll create a quest which will have a different theme. And it will be a series of 9 images based like hidden around the environment, and it'll have clues. So as you have to kind of follow them around and find each clue leads to the next image. And then once you get all of the images, you go into a phone box and you pick up a phone, and it transports you to a secret room, which is like a totally separate part of the world. And that secret room is given as another space where we kind of hand that over to other artists who want to get involved, and they'll imagine it in their own way, and we'll try and recreate that.
That's great. I love how you're kind of saying emergent play. You create these spaces, but the audience push the boundaries and test what they can do there, and then, like you say, it's really nice to respond to that and help them shape it with you, because we are forming a new language, I hope, as well, for these kind of spaces. Kay, similarly, was what challenges were you meeting or expectations met?
Well, I guess we're not. We make shows in real life, so and we build sets out of timber and scrap. So it's like not having those skills, and then working with a team in America. Obviously, Sansar is pretty well established, and Linden Labs developed it before Wookie bought it. So it was already looking really beautiful, a bit too shiny for us. So we were like, hang on, how's it going to work? Because we're in a muddy field most of the time, and it's, our politics and everything come across through the sets that we build. And yeah, it just felt like the world of VR was just, too shiny for the likes of us lot. But actually, the people that in the studios team at Sansar, they're all really cool, and they sort of got it. But we had to spend loads of time like working all through the night, just sort of educating them about the scene, about festivals, about what we do, but also what other people have done before us. We were getting them to watch documentaries about Castle Morton and, that whole thing. So that was a real challenge, actually. But we were just so lucky that they actually got it. So we use loads of people's artworks, and even some of the developers, some of the studio team put their protest banners in from the BLM march in America, and sort of had them on the wall like their own kids' placards, which is wicked. And that kind of made it really great. It was intense to try and do something like that in that amount of time, but but we got there. It worked. And I guess, you know, like you were in that venue just there, and I don't know what video this is. I think this must be a highlights thing. Shy TV is our sort of his take of the BBC that we have. It's like it's mostly our theatre venue at the moment, last few years anyway. So all of the shows that we do, the theatre shows, are kind of the cabaret shows performed in the style of a TV programme. So we've got a dating show and like a Shangri Stars, like a, you know, talent contest. So it's all really interactive. But we've got no budget for set, so it's made out of cardboard and it's just a blacked out tent. But in here, we've managed to get, you know, a lovely studio space, which we'd never have, and surfaces that we can't have, and just things like health and safety, you know, that we don't have to worry about anymore. We can have stacks of TVs in a pile, in a puddle, it's all right. So that, yeah, loads of that sort of side of it is really exciting to sort of start thinking about, and, you know, actually not having to think about gravity even as an option. And
yeah, I was going to ask about that in terms of what once we get past the expected and then start embracing the fact that you don't have to be human. You can float around as a cloud.
Yeah, exactly.
And stuff like that. It's how do we allow the audience to understand that that's even, you know, something they can do and things like that.
Yeah.
There's an interesting thing happening in the chat channel at the moment, and I think it might be quite nice just to go for both Lewis and Kay. You know, the whole point of trying to get these kind of spaces and bringing people together is for human interaction. So what was your observations on these spaces allowing people to have that serendipity of making new networks, meeting friends and stuff like that? Or do you think they were just more passively consuming it through the screen or through the goggles? But do you think there's some of that other forms of social things going on in your mind, or things you could observe, or any feedback on that?
I guess we were streaming from the world, so that's how most of those people, that's how we got those crazy figures. That's how people interacted with it. I think the people in world, they ended up staying for a few hours longer. You know, actually loads of people that hadn't been in VR ever before kind of got on board with us and got themselves in somehow, borrowed kit or whatever they could to experience it. But yeah, I think I've totally gone off, lost my train of thought. I'm just thinking about the whole thing, really. The fact that, yeah, that made a real difference. If people can sort of, the chats were great, but I think seeing that made everybody want to get in there. I think, you know, how people go to festivals and they love dressing up. This is a similar vibe, but also people can identify however they want. And that was really appealing to us, that we're no longer sort of, you know, it's no longer about what you look like at all. And or also, you know, your physicality as well. Like a lot of people find festivals really intense. Anyone with anxiety, you know, can struggle in those scenarios, or people that aren't, you know, they're physically able to be in a field, especially if you're in a wheelchair, or, you know. So suddenly it was like it could open up to everybody, and people from all over the world could come and hang out, and that was kind of what blew my mind. I don't feel like I've answered your question at all. Sorry.
No, I think you bumped around it. I mean, you feel like it's an enabling technology.
Yeah, but I guess it's just the accessibility of it is difficult. You've got to have a really great gaming PC and VR headset. So, you know, we really wanted to do something outside of the festival that was a bit more accessible, you know, and for anyone to be able to come to, and not need a lot of money, not necessarily a privileged person, but actually getting your hands on the tech is expensive. Even for us, we couldn't even afford to buy ourselves a headset until the last minute when we managed to blag some. You know, it was like we had never even been in VR before until a month before the show, so it was a bit of a scrabble to get there. But yeah, I think until you really experience it, it's really hard to explain to people how amazing it is.
And similarly, Lewis, you know, you've used a different platform and stuff. Do you feel you had that kind of community spirit? Did people kind of stick around, stay around? You said you had art galleries and stuff. It sounds like you were making a full space, not just a music venue.
Yeah, I mean, I can input on both sides because I attended the first Lost Horizon gig as well in VR, and that was interesting to me. It was the first time I'd used the Sansar platform, and up to that date, because I'd used VR chat and stuff, and I wasn't a big fan of full body avatars. Like I didn't really connect with that. But it was the Lost Horizon gig that really made me see the potential that has in form of expression. Like I was dancing away, like really going at it in the audience, and there was a mixture of people in there. Some of them didn't have VR, and they were all stood around saying, "Oh, look, he can dance! I wish I was dancing in VR." And so that that adds a lot to the experience. It's hard to explain, even just the ability of seeing your arms while you're dancing and throwing shapes. It really creates. I lost myself for quite a while in that, and it was the closest I've been to like a festival experience in VR. So there's some other things as well. So one of the things, and I don't know whether it's something that we're going to talk about, but one of the things that I always do when I'm in social VR, I always represent myself as a woman. And I do that for a couple of reasons. One, because I'm a man, like normally, and I feel like you have the opportunity to be something and sort of see the other side of things, and I like to explore that. But then on the other side as well, there's always this discussion, and it's kind of in the background about how people are treated in VR, because different platforms have different approaches. So like in VR chat, they have like a bubble that protects you. So if someone can't step into your personal space, I noticed Alt Space, I think as well, have got a protective bubble that you can put up. And it's one of the things, the closer the interactions become to being realistic, it also opens this whole other door of what people should and shouldn't be doing in VR. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I haven't experienced any bad interactions towards myself, but I have seen on a few occasions. I have seen some kind of almost bullying and that kind of thing going on in these spaces, and it's for me, in terms of kind of virtual events and social VR, there's two really big challenges. The first one's scalability, which is due to networking infrastructure and multiplayer in general. And the second one is, how do we moderate these social spaces? And I think no one's quite got any of the answers to that yet. So I'm fortunate. We haven't had like huge figures. I think the most we've ever had at our gigs is about 30 people. So they're quite intimate, and they're usually people we know or friends of the DJs and stuff. It's all kind of quite close, and we do have some random people that come in, and we always try to like be really warmly and kind to people and try and get them involved in discussions and dancing with people and playing these quests and stuff. And so I've not quite had to challenge the moderation aspect yet, but it's something that I'm thinking about quite closely.
Yeah, it's really good to do. We had quite a lot we have to have moderation in Sansar. They're really hot on it. Even in the first couple of hours of opening the festival, people were kicked out for being homophobic or just saying a comment, and it was just not cool. So out they went, and it's actually great because it made me feel a lot more relaxed, because it is really intense. They're being in that space. There was a moment on the dance floor, and I was kind of suddenly surrounded by people, and it all chatting to me. It was kind of a bit much. I like the idea of having a bubble, actually, or a bit of space around you. I think that's definitely needed. I think that would help a lot of people just sort of be able to get into it.
It's so someone just mentioned in the chat about proving that you're a real human. One of the things that I have been looking at is ways of verifying a user. So a user can verify that they're a real person, and then having a way to represent that in the platform, so you can see And there are things, so like VR chat has a kind of trust system, so you can build up a trust system over time. And like this person has no trust rating, or this person's been around for a while, they haven't caused any trouble. I think things like that are pretty interesting ways of solving the issue.
In the SL days, Second Life days, we used to call that griefing, and we didn't even have a bubble or anything like that, and it had a physics engine, so people like to shove people around and eject them out of the Sims and stuff like that, and I think back then as well, everyone was behind an avatar name as well. You didn't actually use your real name, so I think people were pushing the boundaries of what they could get away with as well. So it's good to hear that you're contemplating safeguarding, because as this becomes a more normal kind of thing, obviously the platforms have their own moderation in it. But do you see, as you continue developing these kind of online festivals, is that going to start being a new job? That the virtual bouncer, the virtual people in mental health, virtual.
Yeah.
I
think it's needed. It's I mean, like any event, you have to have those people there. Even if you are putting on a legal rave, you still need some people there that have kind of can just stay sober enough to look after everybody. Like we've got stewards at the festival. It's the same thing, really. We actually work with Cheltenham University, and some of their students came and volunteered as moderators, and actually some of our volunteers that come to Shangri-La were moderators, which was great because they totally got the vibe anyway. They just had the right equipment, but they also made it feel really nice when you turned up. There were just a gang of people hanging out, chatting and welcoming you. I think that's really important. A few times I've been into virtual social spaces and just got really nervous, or just felt like, oh, I don't really know what the fuck I'm doing, like don't really want to talk to anyone. But actually, if you have that moment of interaction with someone before you fully go in, I think it really helps. Definitely.
That's good to hear. As Rob was saying, I think in more established games, like World of Warcraft and stuff like that, I think that there is moderators, but as we're kind of sell user generated content and starting to take on some stuff, it's all these other things you have to kind of start considering, and it probably comes on to my next question. And I suppose we've got two sides to this. We've got free party culture, but you've also got what you're doing in Glastonbury. How do you feel with this moving on into the future? The need to ticket or put a cost on this, because obviously you've both said how much time and effort and input you had in from lovely artists and stuff like that. But is that an economy that can keep going? Because I've been watching that with like festivals for film and animation, which went free immediately, but they couldn't sustain that for next year. So how do you feel about that? And I mean, how do people feel on the chat channel as well? Because my observations is everyone still feels things on the web should be free. But it is a job, and that's something that's been said for the last 6 hours, how we are shaping the new economy and stuff like that. So I just what your thoughts are on that, or what it might be for Lost Horizons for 2021. Would it be a ticketed event?
Yeah, it's hard. We kind of have to, because it's unsustainable. We're not funded by anyone. We haven't had any investment in yet. We're close to figuring all that stuff out. But it costs money to produce this stuff. We're recording all over the world with different artists. So there's the green screen cost, but there's also the chroma keying costs afterwards. It's massive. Like we budgeted, even though we got everyone pretty much performing for next to nothing, as because the idea was to raise some awareness for the big issue and amnesty. That's how we got that wicked lineup that we would never ever be able to afford in real life. We're gonna have to do something, because we were like massively in the shit at the moment. But we also, the point is to try and support artists. So whether that is visual artists or any kind of filmmakers or bands and DJs, everyone's lost their income. So, you know, like you would pay to go to a club, or you would pay to go to see a live concert. Yeah, there was this thing about everything being free online, and I guess with our programming, we kind of for the last round of shows in December, we went with artists that we know are working at the moment, like DJs mostly, but they're always doing stuff online anyway for free. So we kind of made a mistake there by trying to sort of, you know, charge for an event that you can get on Twitch any other night of the week. But we had to sort of try something, because we were like, there's got to be a way of solving this. We're going to move more into sort of live band stuff, because that's really where our heart is anyway. And I think that's quite a different thing, sort of different fans. You know, the fan base is different for a band than it is for a DJ, for sure. But I think it's it's a whole new world, really, and without sponsorship, I don't really know how we can sort of keep sustaining it. But then that brings up other issues, because we've never been sponsored before. You know, that's not really our world. But I do think there's big potential in it. I mean, we want to move into more theatre as well, and actually using that great technology to sort of have more live performance in the space. And I've paid to see loads of great VR theatre shows and, you know, immersive theatre shows online. I think that could be a really great thing to do. We just want to keep our community going. We're not really into this for making profit. We're just trying to do what we can to, you know, for our peoples and the scene, the industry.
Lewis, I mean, what's your thoughts on it? Are you more in what's the word? More like your community is more like a time bank nature, where it's reciprocal kind of support of each other and things like that, or?
Yeah, so I mean, this is another issue that's come up, and something that I've been thinking about in the back of my mind. I've been looking at various ways of doing sort of non-invasive monetization. So people being able to purchase artworks and purchase merchandise. One of the options that I thought about doing was one-to-one virtual and real merch. So you can buy a virtual T-shirt and then you get sent the real one in the post. And then another thing I was thinking about is like tipping the DJs. I've looked at an option that I'm going to try and integrate maybe in the next couple of months, and that'll allow users to buy, you know, like virtual coins, and then they can then tip that to the DJ during their set, and it will get distributed to whoever during, you know, whenever the point that they tip whoever's playing. Or they can just tip to like the whole night. Or the other option, which we've joked about, is petrol for the generator, which is say people that want to support, because I've spent quite a bit of my own money. It's all my own money that I've invested into the platform, and I don't have a lot of ongoing costs now other than the server costs. But once it starts scaling, there's going to be a lot more costs that come in. And I'm kind of in the sense that I really want it to be free forever. Like I don't really want to have to charge people to come to the specific thing that I'm doing. But then outside of this, I've had commercial interest in other areas. So there are other parties. There's one of the things that I'm starting to develop alongside the Music Venues Trust. I'm helping to prototype a virtual venues platform so that real venues can have a virtual version of their venue that people can attend and still do gigs. So that's going to be, I think they're going for a more monetized ticketed based platform. And I see that as a channel where I can use money from development of that to feed back into what I'm doing and kind of grow the whole thing.
Cool. We need to hang out.
In Second Life, we used to have, when even though it was smaller, you mentioned like tips, musicians. I suppose it was more like busking, but they used to have like a tip jar, and they would get paid in what there was a currency in Second Life called Linden dollars.
Linden
I think it equated to like about 0.01 pence. But you know, as it built up, the kind of maybe got a decent amount of money out of a couple of weeks' work and stuff like that. But yeah, that was kind of play days now, and I think it's now, you know, becoming, as I say, a mature kind of space and a new normal. So I think it's quite an important thing to just keep considering. Is like someone's mentioned here today, you know, it's become a ticketed event, but the reason it was in the back of my mind is when we went into the first lockdown, I just saw this immediate kind of response where everyone, I'm going to put my festival on for free, I'm going to do this for free, because I think everyone thought it was just going to be a limited time, and it was this way of doing something for publicity. But then as it kind of got established, you know, this is not going to go away for a while, then it came a bit serious. I suppose, what was the next question I was going to say? So, Kay, you kind of mentioned you were going to you're using Sansar. Would you be continuing to use that maybe next year, or because obviously you mentioned that Linden Labs are now sold out to Wookiee, so
yeah, they've had it for a while. Yeah, we want to continue doing stuff there, but we want to explore other stuff, other places as well. I feel like it's there's so much more we need to try. I think we need some R&D time. But we want to work with other developers and just see what else we can do. We really want people to be able to access it from wherever they are without having money to buy all the fancy kit. Like, that's major. And everyone's got a phone. So, you know, to make something that works on a phone is really important for us. Because we do have a big community and we want to connect. But yeah, I think that's the way. And also, like, we're looking into doing live shows but also having a virtual show at the same time, and how the two can interact with each other. Because we've built the gas tower in Sansar, but we want to be able to build it in real life at Glastonbury next year, but also maybe have like a screen there so you can see the avatars, and then a video in the world so people can see the real people at the festival. That kind of thing, I think would be really exciting to try out.
Lewis, what's your kind of where do you want to go, or your destinations and expanding?
So yeah, same thing as well. Like, I'm very aware that there might, you know, the problem with my platform is it's quite small. I haven't addressed much of the scalability issues. I actually, over the past couple of weeks, have been rewriting the entire thing from scratch, because got to a point, you know, the first thing was built in 2 weeks. It was a bit of a rush job. I'm now building in all the common social features of, like, having friends, being able to find friends, because you can't, you have limitations to how many people can be in the same instance. So it's crucial to have those features there. So scalability is a big thing, and then I can, you know, kind of spread the word a bit more about what I'm doing. Like Kay said as well about having a mobile app version, it's possible to do. Mobile comes with its own set of challenges as well. There's also kind of the social VR stuff split into, like, the WebXR stuff. So anyone with a browser can just connect straight into WebXR. They can go in just like they would on a desktop, or they can actually put a VR headset on and just jump straight in. That's incredible, but it has huge limitations in terms of what you can build with it. It has to be very optimized. I see that space is going to expand more, and I think, you know, the metaverse of the future won't be something that you download necessarily. I think you will just go straight in for a browser, and it'll really reduce the barrier of entry. In terms of, like, virtual events and where they're going, having virtual events running alongside real events, because at some point, it might be in 10 years when normal events open up again. Hopefully it's not 10 years. But at some point, I want to carry on doing what I've been doing virtually online. And we want to look at ways of merging the two. So when we can start doing dead streams again, like we usually do them from an art gallery space in Bradford. So we're all there physically, and we're producing artwork. We have people doing VR artwork. We have people doing traditional artwork. We're capturing it all and live streaming it. And we thought about merging the free party venue with the real one, and having like a portal, sort of like a window into the world. So
Yeah.
we can see into the world what they're doing in the VR, and then they can see into our space and what we're doing. I think I really see that there's going to be, even when venues reopen, I do think there's going to be a big parallel now with the virtual events and the real events, especially the fact that anyone globally can attend any of these events. That's the real beauty of it. Like one of the reasons with this this thing with the Music Venues Trust, being able to allow anyone around the world to access a UK venue and get that same vibe they would of being in that venue. I think that also is going to play into a lot of tourism once the kind of the floodgates open up again after we get through COVID.
Yeah, definitely. We've been talking about recreating some famous places and clubs that don't exist anymore. I always wanted to go to CBGB's in New York and never made it. So let's build it in VR. Let's get people there. That's really exciting to me. That you can actually, recreate any space. Like I worked with Cyberdog a little bit. The Camden store, because they built a world in Sandstar. So I just sort of, consulted them a little bit. And that was really fun because it was exactly like the same shop. Not that I'd been there for a long time, but it was amazing. I think it brought a lot of new people in as well that would never experience it because they just loved that shop and that scene so much. So I think we've been looking at ways of getting new audiences in, and we've been sort of looking in the wrong places. There's that mix, isn't there, between the gaming world and people that go to live gigs, and they're not necessarily the same audiences, but some of them are, and it's opening people up. And I think the next year is going to be really exciting to see all of those worlds coming together.
I'm just watching the chat channel. Lucas is asking an interesting question. So when you all both kind of jumped into using virtual reality, it feels like you were trying to create the real life experience or kind of duplicate that. Do you think that's important, or now, as Lucas is kind of saying, are you finding the technology is allowing you to be more transcendent? And actually, as you say, the future is it? Do you have the real nightclub and then the virtual nightclub where I can be a unicorn, or I can float in the stars and stuff like that, but still listen to the same music, or still maybe even actually connect between the two worlds? Because I was always interested in virtual, in Second Life, trying to connect it to other platforms like Twitter, or even like through microcontrollers like Arduino, trying to make real installations react to the virtual ones and stuff. And it's like, well, where's the boundaries and things? So I'm trying to think what's the question in that. Do you think it's really important to create real life experiences and duplication? Because I suppose my observation is, you kind of say it'd be great to go to a nightclub that I never had a chance to. And something I noticed with Second Life, there was a big resurgence in it when Notre Dame burnt down, because there's a recreation, and everyone flooded back into Second Life to experience being in Notre Dame as the closest simulation that they could do. So it seems to be quite an interesting tension of, we want nostalgia, and while we're in these COVID lockdown times, real spaces, but there's also this opportunity to expand our minds and go, like with Rosie's artwork, let's go off on a trip around the universe. And
come on.
So I just sit on
Yeah.
that.
So I think it's important early on, because I think me and Kay both touched on the fact that some people are already quite fluent in this language. If they've been playing computer games, it's a common experience. But I've had people that don't really use computers, and they've come in, and then they've ended up exploring around, and to them it must be like a complete alien world if they've never had any of that kind of experience before. I think it's important to have some grounding element to it that makes it feel familiar. But then there's really no limitation to where you can go with it. And I think from a personal point of view, what I would really like to be doing, and it's what at the moment, I'm focusing on the social element and about forging friendships, new friendships between people whilst they're in this music space. Because my background, I develop music videos. So for me, the real beauty is going to be, rather than doing a gig where you're there and you can see the DJ or you can see the musician or the singer, I want to try and step really far away from that, and I want you to step inside the musician's head and inside the music. I feel like the real place to explore and the real connections to be had transcend beyond the physical realm of actually just everyone stood in a place looking at a DJ.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think we had to start off. We had to try and make it feel like you're in Shangri-La, because we were like, no one's going to come otherwise, and we don't want to. And also, we never really do anything outside of the festival, so whatever it is we do, it's got to be brilliant, because we feel like we'd be letting everyone down if it wasn't. But yeah, all the ideas, all the little small venues and the things that we've built in real life, we can now build in totally fantastical ways. Now that we've got the sort of starting point, like Lewis was saying, you've got the bit where everyone recognises, but then, we want to open up portals to everywhere. We like the things that we can't do in real life, I think, is what we need to start experimenting with and really getting creative in that space. I think that's where it's going to go for sure. I think, yeah.
I think, like Lewis is touching on it, it's I suppose it's a bit of it's kind of training people to kind of get there. And I suppose here's one thought in terms of, at the moment, you're kind of authoring spaces. I know you're bringing your artists and your creatives, but how much? When do you feel like you're ready to kind of give control to the users, like you say, to take over the space and move the walls? I think that was the thing that was so successful about Second Life, but probably the nightmare that no one accepted it because it was such a free for all, and it had no aesthetic, because you'd have like, it was like truly like Ready Player One. You could have a nice like little cute cat, a highly realistic avatar, and then some like Cube Man and stuff like that, and it was an alien language if it was the first time you saw it. But then the next thing is people were changing the landscape and rezzing up buildings in front of everyone. But that was great. So,
yeah.
I mean, when would you start bringing that on board, or would that be its own kind of exclusive space and things?
That's from what I'm developing, that's a very, very hard problem to solve as well. Opening it up, because you then have to create tools that people can plug in. So like I built everything in. So that's my camera. So I built everything in Unity, and same VR chat. So VR chat's developed their own programming language within Unity, which makes it more accessible to non-developers. So anyone can kind of create their own environment in Unity and then deploy it to VR chat. And I think that's amazing. And it's, again, there's a balance between kind of curating the content and having user curated content, because your experience of VR chat can be extremely different depending on which part of it you land in and who's there. And there's a beauty to that as well. Like, but I think that this is kind of a phase. Like when you look at old cyberpunk fiction, and they were talking about the first versions of the metaverse, it was what VR chat is now. But I really do think it will transcend beyond that. Like, I don't think we even can envision at this stage where it's going to end up. I think it will be, especially if you start thinking about all these other, what seem like crazy ideas at the moment of brain interfaces and stuff. At some point, it might be 10 years, it might be 20 years. These experiences are going to be indistinguishable from reality, but they'll be so far from what is real. You'll be living multiple lives as multiple avatars in multiple worlds, and it'll just be, as fluid as just living normally now.
I thought we were already in a simulation. So I'm just thinking about the crowd we've got. So the technologies you're using, though, and you mentioned a kind of phrase like the worlds are instances. So you even though you can scale it up, really, you just kind of have a little cluster of people that can kind of share the space and
Yeah.
Something that was quite unique about Second Life, and I'll make this probably the last question because I see Mark's trying to wrap us up. I suppose one of my jobs is to kind of, because I'm playing around with this in a decade, my note is sometimes look back into history and stuff like that, because there's something wonderful about the Second Life nature of it being a persistent space. So if you weren't in there, it was still, stuff was happening. People were making things, changing the world around it. And then when you came back in, you might find your furniture had been moved around or someone had done another stuff. And that made it a really unique space. And I've not really seen it in this newer generation of VR kind of virtual worlds, because they've kind of gone down this like Unity model where you kind of make the content off-world and you upload it and things like that. And it's like you were saying, Lewis, you need to kind of have inbuilt tools to allow people to make content. And that was one thing Second Life had. It was amazing because it allowed what we had was a creative virtual world. And I think even though I know taste and it had really bad marketing and stuff like that, I'd still actually revisit some of the history of Second Life because I think it did some things amazingly well, but people didn't understand it at the time. Or I think Ian Foster said it right at the start. You had to be completely the mad one checking it out. But I think it's now starting to become a little bit more entrenched because we've got a gaming culture, massive, MMORPGs and things like that are more second nature and stuff. So, this is more a shout out to everyone in the room. Revisit Second Life, or certainly revisit the literature on it, because I think some of this stuff was kind of visited back there. And one thought I just wanted to leave on, and it goes back to just experience. One of my pets was when I was in Second Life, thinking back on it 10 years, I can't distinguish what's a real memory of me on a beach in Cornwall and me on a beach on a virtual island when I'm talking to my friend in Coventry. And I actually now recall it like a real memory. Like you starting to discover 3-6 months later, you go back, that Lost Horizons gig virtually. Does that actually now in your brain feel like a real gig?
Yeah, definitely. Totally does. Yeah, it's the last time I hung out with my mate who lives in Bangkok. That's a memory that we now have. He found me through a Twitch user who he basically hijacked his avatar and made him come and find me. And luckily, I sort of made my avatar look like a, slightly hotter version of myself. Like maybe, the last time he saw me. So, yeah.
It's such an odd phenomenon, isn't it?
It's totally mad.
I had a friend, Denise Doyle. She did all like PhD around it and stuff like that. Trying to think of a good phrase for it, but yeah, avatar dreams, avatar memories, and stuff like that. And we're kind of saying there's going to be a point where we can't distinguish reality. At the moment, I can't distinguish my memory. It's like because I was in this for like years, and then I had to pull myself out. But they are solid memories because at the end of the day, there was an authentic human connection.
Yeah.
Regardless of what it is, because at the end of the day, all we are is sensory inputs, and we can hijack that. We're talking about brain interfaces and haptics and stuff like that. It is only going to be a very foreseeable sight that jacking in like cyberpunk, and that's all coming, isn't it? So that's going to be fun. Anyway, Mark, you ready for wrapping us up then?
Yeah, man, it's been a long day, and I just want to make sure everyone gets a chance to network and stuff like that. So I'm not going to take any questions. And what I am going to do is I always, at the end of the lab, I always throw in a few musings and things like that. So first of all, a big round of applause to Lewis, Annabeth, and Kay. So make the chat go really wild. We've got no emojis, but thank you very much. It's been really fascinating, and I think we're only just touching this subject a little bit, and like you said, Annabeth, research the past. I mean, in my PhD, I'm always in the past, making sure that I'm not reinventing stuff. So that's a big thing. And also, I don't know if you know who that is. That's Malcolm McLaren. and he's wearing his famous T-shirt called "Cash from Chaos," which he sold loads of them when obviously with the Sex Pistols and punk, which he manufactured in a certain way. Kind of controversial. We might want to read into that one, but yeah, Cash from Chaos, Malcolm McLaren. I didn't realise that all this thing that we've been talking about, obviously, it's punk. Again, reading the past to see what they did. The reason I'm saying that is maybe a ticket. You buy a T-shirt for 20 or 30 quid, and you buy a T-shirt, and the T-shirt costs you, £5 or £10 to make, and there's £20 there that goes towards the virtual element of it. And I've done that in the past, and it's an old idea, but it gets you, the T-shirt gets you a ticket into the thing that you guys are all creating, and it's a simple thing, and your man there's already done it. So we're going to wrap it up now. The networking function on Hopin is ready to rock. This thing's open for another 48 minutes. On the stage, I'm going to put on Fatboy Slim set that was playing Lost Horizons when you all arrived. I'll crank that up. So if you do want to hang out in the chats here and talk to each other, there'll be some nice visuals going off. Also, you're all in the same Future Artists Immersive Arts Lab group. So if you want to chat in there or exchange Zoom links or Google Hangouts or whatever, or go to VR chat. I mean, you've got God knows how many chance to actually chat with each other. So once you have found each other and you found a commonality, whether it's in the chat tonight or later, hang out and make these things happen. And hopefully we'll do this again. So, Kay, Lewis, Annabeth, anything else to add before I close it off?
No, thank you, Mark, for putting this on. It's great to be involved.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And lovely to meet you both. Let's talk more. It's really, it's brilliant to meet you.
We're going to have a class trip to your gig at actual Glastonbury, and we'll come and help. We'll help you build everything, and we'll all be there in the summer. Raving, we'll all have our own T-shirts on that you're going to sell us and stuff in the virtual world.
We can't wait that long. Lewis is going to have to put on a sneaky one. In the meantime, I'm afraid we can't wait another year and a half.
I love it. Okay, I'm going to close this down. Thank you very much. The chat, you've been amazing. We've been global from South Korea to America. I know we've got people from Texas in there. We've got people from New York. We've got Belgium, Germany, Australia. I mean, I don't know the time zones, but I'm tired and it's been a long day. So I'll see you in the chat. Thank you very much, everybody, and hopefully see you all in person soon.
Nice one. Bye.